Hey everyone, and welcome back to a live new episode of Climate Curious, presented by the Solutions Project. I'm Shanae Watkins of Agency of Joy, here to talk the latest issues about environmental racism, climate justice, and COVID-19 with movement leaders from across the country. Joining me, as always, is our ASL interpreter, Rory Burton. Now, oh my gosh, today is our season 1 finale. Oh my gosh, but as always, we're here to talk, like I said, the latest things that is really shaping the world. And we're going to get into it about the Green New Deal today, because we want to transform the way that you think about climate change, as well as the way that you can take part in its solutions, because that's what we're all about here at Climate Curious. We have fun, we get serious, and we engage in real talk. And sometimes we mess up on our teleprompter, and that's just what happens. Today, like I said, we're talking about all things Green New Deal, from what it is to why it's so important to the future of our planet. And joining me today are 3 women who all firmly believe that solutions to climate change should center the people closest to the problems. As always, send your questions in using #ClimateCurious, and we're also sending a shout out to our partners over at Now This for streaming across their channels all season long. Now, let's bring in our guests. Our first guest is a 16-year-old climate organizer with Sunrise Movement, a movement to stop climate change and create millions of good jobs in the process. She works nationally to support middle schoolers and high school leaders. She serves in the Youth Climate Coalition space and coordinates her local hub in Kentucky. At just 16, her work has been featured in Teen Vogue and The Guardian. Everyone, please welcome Lily Gardner. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Hi guys, so excited to be on.
Great. How are you doing today?
I'm good. A regular day, about to start school again.
Oh, that's so real. That's so real. Well, you're looking fab. I'm loving the hair. So just hang tight while we bring in our other guests, all right? Our next guest is the founder and CEO of WeSolar, where she brings affordable and accessible community solar energy to under-resourced communities in Baltimore. The first Black woman CEO of a community solar company, she's helped thousands of low to moderate income families save hundreds annually on their income and electricity bills. So excited to have you with us today, Kristal Hansley. How are you?
Hi, Sean.
How you doing today? Happy Tuesday.
I'm
Good, good. I love that painting behind you.
well. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, and last but not least, rounding out our guest today is the Executive Director of Asian Pacific Environmental Network, or APEN for short, an organization she actually joined as a youth organizer back in the 90s. Based in the Oakland Bay area, APEN has been fighting and winning environmental justice struggles for the past 27 years and remains one of the most unique organizations in the country, explicitly working to develop the leadership and power of poor and working class Asian American immigrant and refugee communities. We're so honored to have Miya Yoshitani with us today. How are you, Miya?
I'm great, and it's really great to be here. I'm really excited to be part of this conversation. Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome. Well, it's glad to have you here, and thank you all for joining us. And for our season finale too. What? Oh my God, we are so lucky. All right, y'all. So let's jump into our news of the week today. This week, we're looking at a letter published in The Guardian from over 100 economists calling for a bold reimagination of the global economy, away from carbon fossil fuels. The letter points out the dire and deeply interconnected emergencies the world is facing that we've talked about right here on Climate Curious, from deep-rooted racism to the COVID-19 pandemic. The economists are calling on governments, institutions, and communities to take power into our own hands and named 3 key steps. 1, governments must actively phase out the fossil fuel industry. 2, institutions of financial power must end their fossil fuel investments and funding. And 3, people must build political power to advocate for a fairer economic system. Shout out to those economists. Lily, I know that the letter talks about what can be done to create more green jobs, instead of more bailouts and subsidies to big oil, gas, and coal companies. I know that you're in Kentucky, right in coal country. So I wonder, how do you envision a reimagined Appalachia?
Absolutely. This is something that is so dear to my heart. I grew up in Appalachia, and I still have so many family members there. And this idea of a just transition, which means assisting former fossil fuel workers, and in Appalachia, that is often former coal miners, to find new jobs using really similar skills to what they had before, but in either renewable energy or care work, or another one of the big priorities of something like the Green New Deal. So this is something that feels so exciting to me, and also feels so necessary. And like communities across our country, but especially Appalachia, have been calling for it for decades at this point.
For sure, for sure. Well, we're going to continue that. And we're going to get more into that with the real talk today, especially from you. So thank you so much. Miya, I know, like, thinking about financial power, these financial institutions, basically, I think, fancy word, right, for banks and universities. What does it mean for them to be investing in fossil fuels? Miya, you there? Oh, I think we may have. No. Okay. Well, hold on. We'll come back to you, Miya. Kristal, I'll turn over to you. I know the letter points out a need for building people power for a fair economic system. Is that the work that you do to help save people money on electricity bills? Is that part of this regenerative society that they're talking about?
Absolutely. When you build local community solar farms in areas that service underrepresented communities where poverty levels is at 80%, it definitely trickles down, because we're able to actually receive some of those renewable energy benefits at the hardest hit populations that deal with the high air pollution that's next to incinerators. So in legislation like the Green New Deal that incorporate microgrids or community solar pilot programs and incentivize the developers, that does trickle down to low-income families. And that's definitely one of the models that, I think coincide with a just transition and includes everyone, not just the middle class.
Nice. And I know that the work that you've done before WeSolar, you've worked, within both in and outside of politics. Can you describe some of the building people power that you've done specifically kind of around this new economy?
Yeah, I think that even starting with my first fellowship in Harry Reid's office, the former Senate Majority Leader, I was the diversity coordinator, setting up connections for state, local institutions of higher education, local nonprofits, NGOs, international. And that's really important to have like that inclusive voice in the room, so you don't have like another Pepsi commercial problem. And so, and even like most recently with the aesthetics with the congressmen and women, and they had like the African attire. I think that was, a little.
And the kneeling you're talking about?
And so, even just like messaging, you can have like a really great product and a solution, but you also need to include those that the audience you're trying to reach a part of the planning and marketing and outreach, so it lands well. So sometimes you can have everything perfect, but if you don't have the right people messaging it, it can be a misfire.
I see. Well, that's amazing work that you've done. Now, I want to check in. Miya, are you there? Can you hear us? No, I think we're still having some difficulties, but we're gonna work on the back end to bring Miya back. But Lily, I'll throw it over to you. We were talking a bit about these financial institutions like banks and universities, and to me, I'm always kind of surprised when I learn that they are investing in fossil fuels. Can you talk a little bit more about what these institutions are doing and how they're connected?
Absolutely. I think that that's a surprise to everyone. I've been noticing that, especially as I've been starting some of the college admissions process, that this concept, both to family members and also my friends who are doing the same thing, the idea that these institutions are really corporations with clear values that are shown through their deep investments in extractive industries, I think is really shocking to people. And it feels like one really key component of transforming our society into one that is regenerative and equitable. But we also have to think, I think, about the myriad of different institutions that we are supporting that are not simply college campuses or banks when we think about divestment, we've been doing a lot of work at the local city level to not only push for intersectional climate solutions, but also for citywide divestment in addition to campus-wide. So I think that, yeah, it's definitely a huge component of the equation and really an important part of the three that were outlined in this article in The Guardian.
I love that. Well, thank you again to, these economists for, naming this as 100 economists, but also thank you for all your work you're doing, both of you all, and Miya as well, who we're going to bring back in. Okay, so that's all the time that we have for our News of the Week segment this week, but stay tuned because up next is our Real Talk segment with our guests. We'll be right back. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Climate Curious. I'm Shanae Watkins, and I'm here with Lily Gardner of the Sunrise Movement, Kristal Hansley of WeSolar, and Miya Yoshitani of APEN, who's having a bit of technical difficulties, but she'll be right back with us as soon as she can. Today, as always, be sure to send in your questions and comments for our guests using hashtag Climate Curious, and we just may answer them and ask them on the show. But right now, it's time for our Real Talk. And today we're talking all things the Green New Deal, from again, what it is to why it's so important to the future of our planet. As we'll hear from our guests today, the Green New Deal is a proposed package of US legislation that aims to address climate change and economic inequality, period. So let's get into it. Lily, I know that you, with the Sunrise Movement played a huge part in building the public pressure around the Green New Deal. I want to start with you. What's the current status of the deal in legislation?
Absolutely. So I think that one thing I want to start with is that often when we think about the Green New Deal, we think about the Green New Deal resolution that Sunrise really mobilized around in late 2018, really introduced by Representative Ocasio-Cortez. But right now, we're viewing the Green New Deal as an opportunity for this governing agenda. So no longer is it just this single resolution that we can really track and pinpoint the progress on, but rather it's a myriad of different issues that when they come together form this broader vision for a Green New Deal. So right now, we've been super excited to see radical shifts to housing infrastructure and transportation infrastructure in the works, but also view possibilities for COVID-19 relief and a green recovery as being a really integral part of what a Green New Deal could look like, as it could radically shape what our economy looks like moving forward and really define a new normal.
That's powerful work, and you are organizing, middle schoolers and high schoolers specifically around this. So I'm wondering, what does that work look like, and kind of what are you learning from your peers in this realm?
For sure. So school is going back, and organizing is going back with it. We are leading a super cool new program that brings in hundreds of new young people into the movement. And I think that for middle and high schoolers in particular, organizing is really different in a place like a school setting. And so we want to teach people how to build out within the context of that community, but also recognize that our entire generation has grown up with the threat of climate change. And many of us have lived with the implications. So it's no longer this far off threat. And the Green New Deal is not some harebrained idea, as it is often posited, I think, by people older than me. So what feels so exciting about organizing with middle and high schoolers is that we can do just as much as organizers who have been in this space for decades. We are leading actions, we are throwing down at the Capitol building, and we're doing so with a lived experience that is so all-encompassing, I think, as our generation. And so watch out, November, we are coming for you, hundreds of new organizers.
Yes.
I love that. And you got our support here. I think it's so great. Just intergenerational leadership. It takes all of us, right? It takes from young to senior citizens. So thanks for all the work that you're doing, both in Kentucky and nationally. Kristal, I want to kick it over to you, because as we talk about the Green New Deal, one of the tenets that's part of it is this idea of community solar. And you run WeSolar, which is, it's a community solar company.
Yeah.
That also, I know that you just launched this past Juneteenth. So first off, congratulations to that.
Yeah.
You're welcome. And I'm wondering, what made you start? Like, what brought you to starting your own community solar company?
That's a good question. So let's just back up. Currently, there's 19 states that have community solar pilot programs in place. And
Okay.
Maryland is one of the states, including Washington, D.C. And while these pilot programs were coming online, as you know, with any new program, there's a lot of kinks, there's a lot of things that still have to be worked out. And even though it was, such a great opportunity, I still saw where, there needed to be a voice and someone who looked like the community that was targeted to do the messaging, as well as remove some of the barriers to community solar, like the credit score requirements, the long contracts, which is associated with traditional rooftop solar models, but it wasn't applicable, or it wasn't as easy to have access for community solar, where there's a slight learning curve. And so I said, okay, I want to bring this to neighborhoods like Baltimore, Maryland, or Camden, New Jersey. I launched in the middle of a pandemic and an induced recession from the pandemic. And I think the messaging and the product sells itself. There's still just a learning curve around solar in general, let alone virtual solar. And it's cool and it's the future. And there's just no one it's not a lot of people who look like me, especially Black women. 90% of solar executives are white males. And so now is the time for that just transition. Now is that time to bring equity and diversity into the solar fields. And why not do it off of a product that actually helps everyone? Again, it's just a great solution.
I love that. And it truly is a great solution. Absolutely. And, I know that, and you talk about just representation as a Black woman. And I know that Black women, honestly, make up a huge amount of driving economic factors within this country on, across a lot of different platforms. And so I'm wondering, what does that look like when you go in and kind of help residents to save money? I understand that they're saving money, but they're also getting connected into this renewable energy source. So what do those conversations look like?
I think around the idea of virtual solar, people are like, is this a scam?
Yeah.
And because how environmental and energy racism, you had certain energy companies come in for years promising energy savings. And so now when you have community solar, which actually saves people money and locks down those savings for decades, folks don't believe that it's real. And so that's how environmental racism impact community solar, because now we really do need the sunrise movements to just hashtag community solar or WeSolar, so people understand, make it go viral, because this is the product. It took us 5-6 years in Maryland to pass, right? And so when we're having those conversations in the community associations, the Dads United, all the 50 so community grassroots organizations that I'm networking with that help pump this out, it's still not enough, because people don't believe that it's real. And so thank for your platform and others. We need to continue to say, hey, not everything is a scam. Community solar pilot programs do bring you savings. And that's a part of WeSolar's mission, is to debunk all of that, historic environmental injustice in our communities, and help, bring the real message that this is real and you can save money, and do the teaching around it as well, and break it down into small chunks.
I love that. I love that. And I think what you're talking about, demystifying, wow, like that's so much within your own work, obviously, to get people in solar, but you have to kind of demystify. So I'm glad that you're here on us with the show today, because I think this is a great opportunity for so many folks watching to hear that, hey girl, this ain't no scam. So
right.
Next time you hear from me solar, y'all gonna answer.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, oh my God, I'm so excited, Miya. We have you back. It's a pandemic, so we appreciate you for rolling with it. It's so good to have you back, and it's right on time, girl, actually. And so I know that we've been talking about the Green New Deal. Obviously, we've been talking about it really from a federal level, from the national legislation. But I understand that there are also state differences, and that there's a California New Deal. So I'm wondering, can you talk to us a little bit about what's the difference on the state and federal level there?
Sure. Well, right now, I mean, the California Green New Deal, which was a bill that was introduced in this legislative session by Assemblymember Bonta into the California State Assembly. We've been working really closely with Assemblymember Bonta, who's been a real champion of environmental justice. And the point about the Green New Deal was really to kind of capture, similar to on the federal level, this need for ultimately a just transition for our state and for the economy for a transformational approach to the economy that actually addresses deep inequality that's in the state of California as well as in the country. We're seeing those same things, even though California is considered to be a green state. You can see that the massive inequality in our state is still a huge problem. And we've done nothing really to address both the environmental burden on communities of color, in particular Black and Indigenous communities, and have our state's approach to solving the climate crisis is really not even addressing the basic reduction in emissions that are required by science. So those things in combination and the opportunity that we have to transform an economy in a way that actually addresses this deep inequality, that's what we're trying to do in California. And of course, California is going to have our California way of doing that, or the things that we need to prioritize in California that are specific to our communities of color, to the immigrant communities that are making our state's economy that are so vitally important. But it really reflects a lot of the same values of the federal Green New Deal, that we need to have good jobs, that we need to have healthy and regenerative approach to addressing this environmental and climate crisis, that we need to focus on the resilience of local communities. And what you said from the very beginning is in making sure that communities who are closest to the problem, who for decades and centuries have been closest to the problem, are at the center of the solutions and are the ones who are defining those solutions for our communities. That racial justice, that reparations, and that recovery for the communities who've been most impacted by racial injustice and inequality are at the center and the core of who benefits from this transition. So, and in California in particular, our immigrant justice and justice for refugees and immigrants in these communities, that is a central part of that, which really reflects in particular the uniqueness of California. And making sure that we have a strong approach to public sector jobs, that we are not shrinking, but we are growing the public sector, that we have this huge opportunity right now. And in particular, I just wanted to talk about like how important it is to think about these values in the same way that they apply to the way that our economic recovery from the pandemic and the health recovery of our communities in this pandemic. These are the same solutions that are vital and important. And there's this racial justice, centering racial justice, reconciliation, and reparations in the climate crisis. It's not new. And I'm glad that there are some economists that are starting to talk a little bit about it. But This is what we've been shouting from the rooftops for decades, communities who have been most impacted. And that's why that has to be reflected in the policy approach. And we need to stop thinking of this as a technical fix. It needs to be a people power, people-centered fix. And to do that, we have to approach it in a transformational and intersectional way.
Yes, and I'm seeing head nods all around, so I'm like, yes, we are aligned with that. And there's so many follow-up questions that I want to go there, but obviously we only have so much time. So what I will ask is, you were talking about the California New Deal. How has the COVID-19 pandemic, how has that affected APEN's work around this deal?
Well, in one way, you could say it's put it on hold because the state legislature is saying like nothing that's not about the pandemic, that's not about the economic recovery, is going to go through the legislature right now. But the critical point in that is just what I was talking about before. It's like these actually are the same solutions that are needed in an economic recovery. We were already needing a recovery and a transformation. So the fact that the pandemic has added a new element of crisis to this it only just means that there's an even stronger argument, a greater need and greater importance for our communities to be at the center of that recovery.
Big T's, big T's. And kind of last question here on this. And we talked about in your bio, you've been out here doing this, organizing since being in the youth. And I wonder, being especially from the Oakland Bay area, home of the Black Panther movement, how do you see kind of like the badassery of people of color within both the climate and just larger social justice movement really changing the game?
Well, I think that just going back to what I was saying before, it's like these are the folks who know the game the best, and they know how to change the rules of the game in the way that works the best for the communities who've been most impacted. So I think it's the history, the strong history of attaching policy change to the power of the people. And to the fact that the people who have been on the outside and the people who have been the outside of politics, the inside of prisons, these are the folks that need to be at the very center of these solutions. And that is nowhere more clear than here in Oakland.
Yes. Kristal, I see a snap over there. Do you want to follow up a little bit to that?
I don't have anything to add to that. The people who are being most impacted, I can just reiterate and hone that in, due to climate change, need to be the beneficiaries and the solutions. We're already the solutions. Reverend Leo said it in the first episodes. The solutions are already here. We just need the resources and the policy to support it.
Yes. So community power from political, social, and economic levels. We want it all. Yes. Awesome, you all. Thank you so much for this. This was a fabulous Real Talk. That's all the time that we have for today. But up next, don't worry, is our audience questions. We'll be right back. Woo, woo. Hey, y'all. It's Shawnee Watkins of Agency of Joy, and we're back with Climate Curious. Joining me today is Lily Gardner of the Sunrise Movement, Kristal Hansley of WeSolar, and Miya Yoshitani of APEN. So our first question is, from Francis, how do we fight back on proposed drilling of the Alaskan frontier? Powerful question. I'll throw it to anyone want to take this?
I mean, I can just start it off. I mean, I think it goes back to building our democracy and building back people power. So there's no way that we are going to change the way that corporations control the climate agenda without people being out in the streets, out in the voting booths, and really trying to make sure that people are not, their right to that decision making, that basic right to engage in democracy is not stolen. So we have to protect democracy, and we have to encourage people, again, who've been the most impacted, who have the best solutions, to be out there in front. And I think we can talk about the collapse of the oil industry and how ridiculous it is to try to rely on future profits from an industry that is dying. And we need to be out of there. That has to be part of our list of how we stop subsidizing these ridiculous and poisonous approaches to our economy.
Yes. Do I get a cheers from everyone for say no to drilling? Are we all aligned there?
100%.
Love that. Awesome. Okay, I think we have another question. Okay, yes, from Gamer Kids. Hey, Gamer Kids. We want to be like Lily when we become teenagers. That's what they say. Oh my gosh, how can kids support the Green New Deal? And I'm blushed, so that's so cute. Lily?
Oh my goodness, I think you guys are already like me if you're tuning in. Shout out to you guys. But I think that kids can support the Green New Deal in the same way that everyone else is. We don't necessarily hold the same voting power, perhaps, but we can vote with our feet. We can show up in the ways that we know we need to, whether that be building the people power that Miya has so eloquently been speaking about this whole time. We have real and powerful impact in the communities that we live in, and we actually have unique connections through our communities at school, and also through our ability to mobilize, don't laugh at me, our parents and the communities that they have. So I think that one, really, again, you guys are incredible, but two, there are incredible kids who are showing up for the Green New Deal across this country who are leading efforts to pressure their politicians, to bird dog them, to hold them accountable once they are elected, and in office. And I totally think you guys are going to be those people too.
Yes, yes. We kids all around, like, yes, y'all are having it. I mean, watching this is amazing. So thank you all so much for tuning in, and get your parents, your cousins, everyone. The more and more that we are talking about this issue, right? That's how we can really change and influence. It's often sometimes just the conversations at dinner table. I know our fabulous guests are saying great things, but I felt that on the spirit as well. So I wanted to just put some light to the kids out there watching. All right, y'all, thank you all so much for your spot-on answers, for hearing this question and answer segment. Up next is our rapid fire segment. We'll be right back. Hey y'all, welcome back. And if you all have been enjoying this music, don't forget to check out Taina Asili. Her name is in our credits at the end. She produced so many of this amazing original music that you've heard throughout all season long. So be sure to check her out. But right now it's time for our rapid fire segment, which is our little fun way of just, checking in with our guests outside of work. So we're going to ask them a couple quick questions, and they have to give us their answers with the first one or two words that come to mind. So for this, we're to give some order. I know because we're virtual. We'll go Miya first, then Kristal, and then Lily. You all will have the same question, so it'll be good. All right. So first question: it's a pandemic. We're still quarantined despite certain administration. Something you've binged on TV or Netflix recently, Miya?
Oh my God, this is so embarrassing. Okay. I was just watching this, and I just can't remember the name of it. It's this really cute movie, All That You Are, or something. It was on Netflix. It was the cutest movie. I watched it with my daughters. I'm just really appreciating that I have internet and that I can be entertained. But so I have not gotten through my list yet. But yeah, that is what I've been watching. Just elevating good mood kind of shows that are especially like featuring the next generation.
Got it. Love it. Kristal?
Yes, so I haven't had a chance to binge a lot of TV since launch, but to all the sci-fi nerds out there, yes, Black Mirror. If you love Black Mirror, I binge Amazon's Upload. You have to check it out. It's so good. Yes, it has something like detect the consciousness, and you're just removing yourself and cut. If you love Black Mirror, to all the viewers out there, definitely you're going to be in for a treat. I definitely binged that and snuck a few hours. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to check that out.
I watched that too.
Yeah?
Yes.
Well, look, as y'all saw, I'm a sci-fi nerd too, so I got to check that out because I need to get in. In. And Lily?
I've been binging Orange is the New Black. I think I'm about 10 years late to the game, but
still a classic show. I mean, the storytelling in that, wow, just amazing. Okay, next question. And it's kind of actually staying in a little bit of a nerd culture. Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, Slytherin, or Gryffindor? And for those who are not watching, these are houses from the Harry Potter wizarding world. Miya?
Okay, well, I've taken the test online a number of times, and I'm Gryffindor every time. So can you say
Go on. Okay, yes, Gryffindor. Kristal?
I've also taken the test, and I'm Slytherin.
No, Slytherin. They saved the day, okay? Emily?
I am Hufflepuff, much to the dismay of the kids I babysit for. But, it's the reality.
Well, it's kind of great. We all represent houses because as when I was younger, I was definitely Hufflepuff, but now in my adult world, I'm definitely a Ravenclaw. As I sit here asking questions.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and another question. Would you want to learn a new language or talk to animals, Miya?
Ooh, definitely learn a new language. I mean,
Okay.
talking to animals would be also a new language, I think, but I've been trying to learn a new language for like 2 decades and I haven't successfully done it yet. So I would really like to do that.
All right, sending you energy. You still got it. You got it. Kristal, how about you?
I would definitely say learn a new language. I mean, being able to communicate with different cultures and folks from different backgrounds is so pivotal and key. So yeah, definitely new language.
Love. And Lily?
100% language. Would love to be a polyglot.
Yes, polyglots. Awesome. Okay, and we have one last question for you all today, and it's a simple one. What is one thing that's bringing you joy right now? And I'll start with you, Miya.
Okay, I just got home from Australia and my garden has been neglected for like the last 5 weeks or so, but I just picked this nectarine off my tree and it is giving me so much joy to like be able to actually eat fruit out of my garden. I just feel really, really lucky.
Love that, love that. Kristal?
I'm classic, just friends and family. In a time where we're all social distancing, you're just reminded of the things that we take for granted. And so just being able to pick up the phone, call your grandmas, call your parents, your friends, and just having your local community and those who care and love you the most is really important. So I'm really grateful about that.
Heart space, heart space. And Lily?
I think it's a tie between maybe the ice cream I ate like right before this, or also the kids I babysit for and my friends and family who have been incredible, like just little lights throughout all of this, and I'm so grateful.
I love that. Say hi to everyone while they're sitting by. All right, y'all. Well, that's all the time that we have with you all today. I want to say thank you so much for joining us and for all the amazing, badass, great work that you all are doing, both within your communities and national. I would love to, as we close out, let everyone know where people can follow you. Do you have anything new coming up? I'll start with you, Miya.
Okay. So I'm on Twitter at Miya_Yosh. And you can follow APEN too at APEN4EJ. And go to our website, apen4ej.org. There's the number 4 and the letters EJ. Yeah, it would be great to just be in conversation with more folks about these solutions.
Yes. Go check them out, y'all. Go check them out. Kristal, where can folks follow you all? And where can folks donate? Because I know you just started a new company. Like, let's get folks to support WeSolar. That's amazing work. And again, y'all, this is the first Black woman CEO of Community Solar. So where can folks follow you?
Yes, K_Hansley_, that's my IG and Twitter, and also WeSolar_Energy. Please help donate. Spread Karma is the first Black Kickstarter launched out of Baltimore, and we're featured there, WeSolar. So check them out. And yeah, we're just bringing community solar awareness. And that's a huge learning curve and a lot of marketing dollars. So even if it's $1, will help bring those savings to the communities that need it the most. So again, that's Spread Karma. That's where you can donate. And WeSolar_Energy is where you can follow us on all our socials.
Awesome. And last but certainly not least, Lily.
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Lily Gardner, except no E before the R. My name is ironic enough. And you can find Sunrise Movement also on all socials at Sunrise MVMT, and on our website, sunrisemvmt.org.
Awesome. Well, thank you all again for joining us, and thank you all for tuning in. You know, I get the joy of telling you this is a wrap on season 1 of Climate Curious, presented by the Solutions Project, and we couldn't have done it without you all. So please, thank you so much. We've talked to over 15 amazing movement leaders from across the country on so many different topics, from justice first to natural disasters to the Green New Deal, like we're talking about today. And the thing that we've heard so much is that our problems are big. Yes, that is. But Together, we have the solutions to solve them. And I'm so inspired by our guests for joining in and sharing all of their work. On behalf of the entire Climate Curious production team, thank you all for our guests for joining us, for our viewers, our partners for streaming, and a special thank you to our ASL interpreter, Rory Burton, who is a rock star and in making this as accessible as possible as we can for all of our viewers. Until next time, I'm Shanae Watkins of Agency of Joy, and don't forget to smile, y'all. See ya.
Solutionaries feel the heat and heal up home. It's time to vision a new world that's for us all. Come organize near your home and near your heart. Let's get together, create the future that we want. Come and heal up home. Create the future that we want. We're done with exploitation and extraction.